Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Hello and welcome to the Women's Roundtable podcast powered by the Think Factory, where we learn how women think big and grow their business. My name is Susan Kleiner. I'm a partner with Outside General Counsel Solutions, and I'm the host of today's episode. I'm happy to have with me today Susan Mueller, the CEO and founder of Relief Mental Health. Relief Mental Health is an outpatient provider of transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, intranasal esketamine, Spravato, traditional psychiatry services, medication management, and talk therapy for the treatment of depression, OCD, anxiety, and other diagnoses. Susan, it's great to have you here today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and hear more about you and the important work of Relief Mental Health, which has undergone extraordinary growth since it was founded. I'd love to welcome you to our show and love to hear some more about you and about Relief Mental Health. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me on today. Like you said, I'm Susan Mueller, the CEO of Relief Mental Health. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary of being in business. We saw our first patient at the end of January 2020. We had one site at that time, and we've grown to 10 sites and counting with over 100 employees at this point in 3 different states. So we are in Illinois, Wisconsin, and New Jersey.
Wow, that's amazing. And I can't help but notice January 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, had to be especially challenging, as it was for all mental health providers. But to see you survive and grow is really amazing. So just for the folks who are listening who may not be familiar with what you do, could you just tell me a little bit about TMS and your intranasal esketamine treatment? Because I think it's a little different than what people normally hear about.
Yeah, so TMS stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation, and that is a treatment used primarily for depression and OCD. It is a helmet with magnets in the helmet that are stimulating and destimulating the brain to regulate your neural pathways, working similarly to an antidepressant without any of the side effects or the systemic things that come with taking antidepressants. And it is for people that have tried and failed other types of treatment, even if it's just one medication that they maybe have tried and it had side effects or it didn't work. They can do TMS, and they come to our office for these very quick treatments. It's 20 minutes, and they come and they hang out with one of our really nice technicians. And it is about a 9-week commitment, but it has a really great durability, and it has an 85% efficacy rate. So it's a very effective treatment for depression, OCD, anxiety. We do some off-label stuff for PTSD and some other diagnoses for mental health, but it's a really, really great treatment for people that are looking for some sort of alternative to their typical antidepressants or talk therapy. And our esketamine treatment is called Spravato. That is an FDA-approved antidepressant. It's the first psychedelic medication that was approved by the FDA that people take kind of like an allergy spray. They do it in the office with us, and it is a form of ketamine that they spray into their nose, and we monitor those patients for 2 hours in our office while they have their treatment. They come twice a week to start, and then we taper them down according to how they are doing, and it's very effective. A lot of patients do it in conjunction with TMS. Both of those treatments are covered by insurance and FDA approved, so they've gone through, all the trials to make sure that they're safe and effective, and we've had great success rates with both of those.
Yeah, that's just amazing, and what a great thing to be able to offer patients, particularly those who, have been treatment resistant for, their mental health struggles. So that must be great to treat that population and see the way that they're growing and changing. Must be really satisfying.
It is. It's very satisfying. It really, truly is a way that we're saving lives every day, and I can't tell you how great it feels to be able to work in an industry like that.
So How long, I'm just curious because I've heard about Spravato and Spravato treatment, and I know that that's becoming more and more prevalent. But the TMS is something that I hadn't heard of before, but I think when we talked before, it's been around for a while, right?
It was FDA approved back in the mid 2000s, and it has been around for quite some time, but it hasn't been a mainstream modality in psychiatry necessarily until pretty recently. I mean, even if you go back to people that were maybe in med school 10, 15 years ago, they probably didn't even touch on it. So those psychiatrists are now just learning about it too. So it's been really great. There's been a lot of improvements and a lot of new FDA approvals and research on TMS, and people are using it a lot more as a first line of defense rather than something that they're looking at when there's nowhere else to turn.
Oh, wow. That's great. So it's not just for the treatment resistant. It can be maybe one of the first steps that you take as it becomes more accepted.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great alternative to ECT as well. A lot of patients have nowhere else to go besides ECT, and it's an alternative to that doesn't cause memory loss. It doesn't involve anesthesia. There's a lot of positives for this treatment as opposed to something like ECT.
Well, that sounds terrific. So, as we talked about before, Relief Mental Health has had extraordinary growth under your leadership. And, you and I were talking about how it's not all that common to have women CEOs in the healthcare industry. In fact, I did a little research, and at least the statistic that I found said that women hold 15% of CEO roles in healthcare organizations. So given that you are, a CEO, I'd just love to have your thoughts on that. And if you have any advice for women in healthcare that are seeking leadership positions and maybe want to get, to the C-suite.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting statistic because I would say a lot of the healthcare industry is very female focused. There are a lot of women that work in the healthcare industry. It's just that those leadership positions are typically held by the men. And it's like any industry, right? Where we're probably seeing more male CEOs than female CEOs. But I think that a really good advice is to just, keep learning every aspect of the industry that you're working in and just, keep pushing to learn more, understand every aspect of it, the full cycle, everything from marketing to the clinical aspect, and know more than everybody else. And there's really nowhere to go than up, right? Become invaluable, work a lot smarter than your peers.
Yeah. So hard work, networking, and expertise, and hopefully shattering more of those glass ceilings. So, well, good for you. And, it's great to see you, in that position, and hopefully we get more women, in positions like that in healthcare. So, given your extraordinary growth and everything you've done, obviously, you have a very effective leadership style. And I'd love to just talk to you a little bit about, how would you define your leadership style at Relief Mental Health?
I think I'm a very collaborative leader that likes to listen to staff and really takes everyone's feedback very seriously. I don't like to be quick to make a decision without the feedback of our team, but I also believe in leading by example too. I think that I'm the kind of leader that is not afraid to jump in there and do the work myself as well, and show people that, I'm not too good to do certain things at our company. I'll sweep the floor or do whatever, right? I think it's really important to collaborate with staff and also just to really lead by example. That's probably the two most important things to me when it comes to leadership.
And I imagine when you started in January of 2020, you probably were doing a fair amount of everything, like answering phones, sweeping the floor, everything.
Did every single job here. I have done all of them. I have done TMS treatments. I have done the intake. I have swept the floors. I've put the furniture together. I did every little piece from the beginning. And I think that it also it was very helpful because I can see what their needs are in each role. And I know I can have empathy for them because I've been there. Now, as we've grown, obviously there are certain things that I may not be able to jump in and do right away. But for the most part, I can really empathize with all of our staff because I've been there. I haven't been a doctor. I haven't been a therapist, obviously. But
aside from that, but you're ready to jump in. Yes,
yeah.
It sounds like you're a collaborative team player and leading by example. Just, tremendous. So I wanted to actually shift a little bit because this is something that really interests me. And in our conversations, I was really impressed with, what you said given your background. So for years, we've been talking about work-life balance. And I've been reading a lot of commentators now say, forget about that. There is no work-life balance. It's a myth. Because, we're never really in balance. True balance doesn't exist because life is in constant flux. So you're a busy person. You're a wife, you're a mother, you're a CEO. What does work-life balance, if any, look like for you, and how do you achieve it?
I think that work-life balance is only achieved when you can properly delegate things and set boundaries, right? So I outsource things that I can, in my personal life. And I set a lot of boundaries when it comes to my job. I'm very present in both. So if I am at home and I'm with my kids or my husband or my friends, I really try to be present and in the moment there and not take a million phone calls. I don't call my staff members at 9:00 at night. I don't call them on the weekends. Unless there's some sort of very serious patient emergency, I try to set those boundaries where I'm not stepping over those boundaries either. I mean, I'm available pretty much all day, every day, during the week. But when it comes to the weekends, I really set that boundary where I don't overstep those boundaries, and I would just expect the same respect from my staff. And I think if you hire really good people, you can set boundaries and you can have some work-life balance and sort of rely on those people to handle those big issues because you trust them and you've trained them enough, and knowing what can wait and what can't, right? So I think that's really important to me. But, setting boundaries and delegation are really important. When I'm at work, I am at work. I am not doing a bunch of personal things, taking 1,000 phone calls from my kids or my husband or my friends. I am here and I'm doing my job, and I think it's just really important to be present in the moment for whatever you're doing, whether it's home or work. Just be present and you'll get a lot accomplished, and you don't need to take those phone calls outside of those scenarios.
So do you have a policy of, not looking at your phone when you're at home, or I'm just curious.
Let's not get carried away.
Okay.
I do look at my phone, but I think that I'm really good about, if it's an email, right? I might read it, I might flip through it, but I'm not responding at 11:00 at night because I don't want people to do that to me, and if there were an emergency, I think that somebody would call me. I'll answer the phone, but, there aren't that many emergencies that I need to be called after work. And I wouldn't do the same to somebody else.
Right. And then, so I also heard delegating at work and delegating at home, both are really important.
100%. I mean, I think that as, obviously there are certain parameters that people can make based on, their financial constraints too. But if you can delegate and if you can have help at home, if you can, use an Instacart or something like that, right? Order your groceries. Maybe you don't go to the grocery store, but you can have them delivered to your house. And, as much as you can delegate out to your kids or, have some people come in and help you with things, it's okay not to actually do it all yourself. And sometimes you just have to let it go, right? You might just have to leave the dishes in the sink, and that's okay.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah. Well, no, I definitely hear that. And I, also as a, working, parents and, busy career, sometimes it feels like I'm more balanced than others. But, obviously boundaries, delegation, it can wait, being intentional and letting go, all really great advice. So while we're talking about advice, obviously you've been, in this industry for a while. We're not going to put an age on you, but, being as successful as you are and, as far as you've come now, looking back, is there some advice that you would give to your younger self?
I would tell my younger self not to plan too much, because it doesn't usually turn out the way you think that it's going to be. And when you set those expectations that something has to look exactly how you planned it out, you might be disappointed. So make less plans, and listen to, your gut a lot, right? I think that how you envision your life is really important, but as you're kind of growing and changing as a person, you don't really know what you'll get yourself into that actually might be really fulfilling. I always tell my kids that I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up until I was like 42. And it's true. I think that you just can't make plans. I mean, it's good to have goals, but don't make plans, because plans are always going to change.
Right. And you need to be flexible so that you can, grasp onto something and maybe it leads you somewhere that you never dreamed, right?
Totally.
I have to imagine that when you graduated from college, you probably didn't envision being the CEO of Relief Mental Health and doing the kind of stuff that you're doing now.
No, I guess so.
So it's good not to have plans. So what's next for you and for Relief Mental Health? What are you excited about? What's going on with your organization?
Well, I mean, we've grown a lot in the last 4 years, obviously, as you know. We've grown in the number of locations that we have, the amount of staff members. We're adding some new modalities to Relief, coming in the next year. There are a lot of really cool things going on in the world of psychiatry that we're looking into doing as they become FDA approved. So we're hoping to be at the forefront of all of those. We have a few new clinics that we plan on opening in some of the states that we are currently in, and hoping to expand into at least one new state this year. That's already on the horizon. So that's really exciting for us. And just really getting an opportunity to help more people and do it in a really big way.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. I'm certainly going to be looking forward to, seeing more about the great work that Relief Mental Health is doing. So where can people connect with you? Tell me more about your social media or Relief Mental Health social media. If we're interested in finding more, where do we go?
Well, they can go to our website at reliefmh.com, and they can look for us on social media. We're on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and all the things. We're a little bit of everywhere. I mean, I'm personally on LinkedIn as well, so if they wanted to personally connect with me, they could do that. But yeah, I mean, going to our website is a really good place to start, and there's a link right on there that they can connect to us for more information as well.
And I imagine your website also has more detailed information if people are interested in learning some more about TMS or intranasal esketamine or some of these other services that you're talking about that are coming down the pike. They can find information there. Well, that's terrific. So, while we're wrapping it up, as we ask all of our guests at the Think Factory, what keeps you up at night?
Well, I think that my answer is probably not a traditional answer, because you're probably looking for, what bothers you and what's happening in your mind that you can't get out of your mind. But for me, truly the non-traditional answer is silence. I mean, I like the night because nobody bothers me, right? My kids are sleeping, my husband is sleeping, and work is sleeping. And I like the quiet and the silence and just to have a really nice moment to myself. And so I probably stay up a little bit later than I should, but I think that silence is really important for me to just reset every day. So, unfortunately, it's not your traditional answer, but it's a real answer. It's the silence. I love the silence.
So you're intentionally, what's keeping you up at night is intention and having some time to unwind and, I guess, connect with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice also for, the intentionality that we talked about before. Well, Susan, I want to thank you so much for appearing on today's episode. And as we said before, people are welcome to reach out to you and learn some more about the great things that Relief Mental Health is doing. Be sure to check out the other Women's Roundtable podcasts so you can learn how women think big and grow their business. Thanks so much.
Thank you.